Hi, welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. My name is Lisa Curcio. Today is Monday. It is October 2nd. The year is 2023, and this is a special YouTube premiere, which means I'm live with you right now in the chat. We would love to interact with you. Tonight, I'm going to teach you how to use your dies to make a pop-up frame card with a floating image. Now, while all my cards tonight have a Christmas theme, you can use them for any holiday or occasion whatsoever. Best part of all, you're going to be able to use this fun fold to create a beautiful shadow box effect. And I'm super excited to share it with you. Now make sure you stick around for that free project sheet. That's going to be linked for you down in the video description below when tonight's stream is over. That's going to contain the pictures, the cutting dimensions, and all the supplies, not only for the card I demonstrate for you, but for all the cards I'm going to share with you tonight. And I have to say, they're all pretty amazing. You're going to love this card. Now, we love to interact with you, so be sure you log into your YouTube account so that you can chat with us here right now during the premiere, or perhaps you're watching the replay. You'll need to log in to leave a comment as well. I come back and I read every single one, and your feedback is very important to me. Now, I have one more thing I want to let you know about, and that's Gina Hawley. You'll see her name here in blue off to the side with me in the live chat. We're here to answer your questions and to interact with you, so please chime in and say hi. One other thing you're going to want to know about, stick with me when the demonstration is over. I cannot wait to share with you all about the online stamping retreat, session 2. That's going to be worldwide right here in a private YouTube channel at the end of October. We cannot wait to spend the day with you. All right, we're ready. Let's get started. This fun fold card is comprised of 2 pieces, so we're going to do one at a time. We're going to work on this one first. This is 4 1/4 by 11. The scoring dimensions are very simple. I'm going to use my paper trimmer, and the first one is going to be at 1 1/2 inch. Now, I don't do anything straight, so I love that there's a ledge here at the top. There's also one at the bottom. This trimmer includes both the scoring and the cutting blade. They navigate up and down out of the way on that clear cutting track. Best trimmer I have ever used. You'll find it linked with all the other products in my online store. So at 1 1/2 inches, we are going to score. Now we're going to scoot over to 5 1/2 inches, and we are going to do the exact same thing. This is going to be the front of the card, or what I refer to in your project sheet as the base. So I'm going to put that off to the side. We're going to move over now to the other piece that's going to comprise the pop-up to this frame card. This is going to be scored at the exact same dimensions, although this is 4 1/4 by 7 inches. So once again, 1 1/2. I'm going to line that up against that nice straight ledge, making sure that's good and straight, and then we're going to score. And then I scoot over to 5 1/2 inches and do the exact same thing. Just move that trimmer out of the way, and we are going to come back to the pop-up piece here. And I'm going to use my bone folder so that you can see these score lines a little bit better. I always want to reinforce them by checking those outside edges to make sure it's nice and straight. You know, we don't always score evenly, so this is a good time to double check. What we're going to do now is we are going to create an opening here for the floating image for this card. Now you can use any die shape that you want. I'm going to recommend that you use dies that have cascading sizes, and that will make sense in just a minute. For this specific sample, and my others are all different, I'm going to be using the countryside corners. Now I've pulled out a couple of the shapes here, again cascading sizes. I'm going to start with the larger one, and that's going to go here in the center of my card. Now, intuitively, you might want to go up and down. So as I mentioned, don't be afraid to change the direction. You can get some really interesting patterns here. Now, you know it's going to slip and slide all over the place when you go to put it inside your die cutting machine. So if you haven't watched my videos before and this is your first time, I got to introduce you to this. This is the Post-it labeling and cover-up tape. It's not a Stampin' Up! Product, so it's not in my online store, but I have it linked for you on my website. If you click on Shop Craft Room Favorites, this has been a game changer. Dispenser is fantastic. You can go ahead and rip this any size that you want. And all you're going to do is visually center this between the 2 score lines. So I'm going to scoot that down a little bit, and I'm kind of looking. Those of you that are really persnickety, you can obviously bring out your ruler. And then once you have it where you want it, tape it down over the die onto the cardstock. That's going to hold its positioning in place, and then we're going to pass this through the die cutting machine. Now I've just die cut that for you, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to carefully remove that tape because you can reuse it multiple times. I like to put this right back here on top of the cartridge, or you can put it on the handle of your die cutting machine. I get about 6 or 7 uses from each piece here, so it's really economical. I'm going to go ahead and place this off to the side. We're not going to need that for today. You can always use it for another card. But let's talk about this area here. I'm going to go back over the score lines so that you can see it. If you want to decorate it, now is the time. And in my case today, we're going to use some Versamark ink to create some subtle backgrounds. So I'm going to bring in my scrap grid paper here, and I'm going to open it up so it's nice and flat. Versamark is a watermark ink pad. It's typically used for heat embossing because the ink is very sticky, but I love it to leave the watermark on colored cardstock. The darker the cardstock, the more predominant it's going to be, and I think you're going to be able to see that today. Let's go ahead and open that up, and I'm going to use a couple stamps here from a stamp set that I'm growing quickly fond of, and I'll tell you for lots of reasons. It's called Modern Garden. I love the whimsical flowers, but these are poinsettias. And you might be thinking it's a bit abstract. It is, but wait till you see how beautiful it is. I love the culmination of greetings as well, which makes this extremely versatile. This also has designer series paper that coordinates with it, and we're going to use that in just a few minutes. So I'm going to start with my larger poinsettia here. I'm going to ink that up in the Versamark ink. Now always make sure that your Versamark ink is pretty good and juicy. Obviously you don't want it oozing out the sides, but don't be afraid to re-ink it. Now I'm going to protect those edges here at the top. So I'm going to fold that edge back when I stamp. And you're going to need lots of firm, even pressure to get out that watermark ink. And then I'm going to move this over here and do the same thing. I'm going to work around this frame. Now you don't want it obviously here at the bottoms if you think it's going to show. So don't be afraid to curl those edges back. And then I'm going to turn and tip this a little bit. So we've got some variation of pattern. And this is going to create a subtle background to this piece of paper. And then let's do a couple more down here at the bottom. And again, I'm going to tip and turn this. And then I think I'm going to squeeze a little bit up here in the corner because it looks a little bare to me. And there we go. Now this in itself is probably great, but we're going to layer it. Now Versamark ink is very sticky, and just off camera, I'm cleaning it on my Stamp and Scrub. You don't want to leave it on your stamps. Now this is not intended to line up perfectly, but it gets close. So you see how this end is a little bit longer like this one? So that's how we're going to use it. So we're going to ink this up. We're going to fold this back again. I'm trying to keep my head out of your camera view, and we are going to press. Now sometimes you'll get a better impression than others. That's Versamark. But can you see here how you've got that little bit of double up? And I love that because it gives us a little bit more realism. We're going to turn that, and we're going to do the exact same thing here with this one. And again, they don't have to be perfect. That's the beauty of these abstract stamps, is they're intended to be very, very whimsical. So we'll go ahead and do that one here, and then one more up here. And again, I'm going to be very careful and clean that. I thought it needed a little bit of a center to kind of fill this. So back to the Versamark ink. There's this little splotchy image, I don't know what else to call it, that kind of fills the center of this specific flower. You can also use it on the other blooms that are inside this stamp set, and I think it does a wonderful job of giving a little bit of a realistic look. Now, as the watermark ink of the Versamark begins to dry, the images will become more predominant. So you can see as it's drying here that it's looking a little bit more like poinsettias. Let's go ahead now and let's work on the next step. Since this is going to be the pop-up image, we are going to need to add something here to the center so that everything can float. And that's going to be comprised of a piece of acetate. Now Stampin' Up! Calls it a window sheet, and I've got a piece here. Now this is 3/4 of an inch wide, and I cut it by 3 7/8. Now I know that probably sounds like an odd number, but it's going to make sense in just a moment. It's going to go inside the window. So let's prepare this first, and for this, I personally love glue dots because it's a lot easier to control. So I've got my glue dots here, and I've peeled them back. I'm going to take the top of the acetate edge, and I'm going to press a glue dot right on top of there. And I am going to work them all across the top ledge of the acetate. So there should fit about 3 of them right on top of there. Now we're going to do the exact same thing on the bottom. So all the sticky now is to the back side. So I'm pressing and lifting. The great thing about glue dots is you can actually put your project right on top of the glue dots so you don't have to manhandle them, which is exactly what I've done here. Now we're going to turn this upside down. Now keep in mind that we want it to float this way, and you're going to attach this visually to the center. So I'm just going to lightly tack it there because I don't know if you're like me, you're never perfectly centered, right? So I'm going to tack the first one down, and then I'm going to look, and I'm going to make sure that that looks fairly straight, and that looks pretty good. Because the image is going to float, we have a lot of forgiveness here, and then we're going to press. So now we have the window sheet attached here at the top and the bottom. Again, you want to make sure you don't go past those crease lines. Now we can flip it over, and now we can begin to build the floating aspect. For the back portion, I decided on a piece of real red cardstock. Now all these cutting dimensions are inside your project sheet. The first piece is going to go to the back side. That's how this creates an illusion of floating. So I'm just going to look at this visually, and I'm going to take my Stampin' Seal Plus. I'm going to put a strip of adhesive right down the center. Now this adhesive is incredibly strong, so you don't have to go crazy with putting a whole bunch on, which is one reason why I love it. I'm placing that here on my silicone craft sheet to help me just create a margin that's even all the way around. And then once I'm happy with it, we're going to go ahead and tack that in place. That now has stuck to the back side of that acetate. Now we've got the front side to work with. Let's go ahead and slide this over for just a second. And I'm going to bring in another piece of white cardstock. Now I did this ahead of time, and this is using the slightly smaller die that we used for the opening. And this is where you want your graduating sizes of dies. Here is where I'm going to stamp my greeting. But on my other samples, wait until you see the variations that I created. I'm going to use Garden Green ink, and this is the beauty of Stampin' Up! Products, is that color coordination. From that same stamp set, I've pulled out one of the sentiments. We're going to ink that up in the Garden Green ink, and then we are going to stamp that here. Lots of firm, even pressure. Center it the best that you can. Now to hide all that ugliness, this is going to go here over the top. So let's flip this upside down, and now we're going to bring in some dimensionals. I always like to make sure that these are well balanced, because if you're going to mail your card, be cognizant that it's going to go through the mail meter at the post office. I've got my Take Your Pick tool here. I can't live without that putty tip, and that paper piercing tool attachment is interchangeable. So I've got that one attached here, and I'm just piercing those backings to that adhesive to remove the paper. And then this is going to get centered here. So I'm looking for a margin across the top and the sides the best that I can, and we'll press that in place. I want to give you a real quick look at that. Isn't that interesting? Now we're going to decorate some of the front here, but we're going to be very cognizant of the crease lines where it's going to attach to the base. I'm going to use some scrap basic white cardstock here, and I'm just going to do a couple of these so that you can see. I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer. We're going to stamp those poinsettias. So we're going to start with Poppy Parade ink, and we are going to use that large poinsettia. Let's go ahead and let's ink that up, and then we are going to stamp that here. Lots of firm, even pressure to get out your ink color. I'm also going to do a small one, so we're going to ink that up, and we're going to stamp that one here. Now I am going to switch over to Real Red. Now this is a shade darker than the Poppy Parade, and it's going to work perfect for this smaller flower. This will layer well inside of here. Remember, I told you it's whimsical, so it's not intended to be perfect. So I'm looking for that long petal here and here, aligning my center, and then we are going to press. And look at that two-tone. Isn't that fun? Now there is no way I found that I liked to double up this one, but wait until you see how beautiful they work together. So I'm just cleaning that stamp off camera, and just like we did with the Versamark, we're going to want to create a center to that flower, and I'm using Wild Wheat. Now it's an unusual tone of yellow and green, but it works fantastic for your fall and your holiday cards. So I'm going to ink up that little splotchy image we talked about earlier, and I'm going to stamp that right there inside. Now it needs leaves, doesn't it? So this again is where I brought in that garden green that we had just previously used. Now looking at the stamp set, I didn't really have the perfect poinsettia leaf, so I had an idea. I took this image here, which includes the stem, and I inked it up and I stamped it. Now I did this all several times to get multiple blooms and leaves, but I want to give you an idea on how we're going to create some depth to this. Now just clean that stamp off camera, and we are going to switch over one more time to shaded spruce. And this is where we're going to add a little bit of depth to that leaf. Now there's a little tiny image that's intended for the leaves as part of the stamp set. So I'm going to ink that up in the shaded spruce, and I'm going to stamp that right inside those little leaves right there. Now when you go to clean this, you just want to tap it to clean it because you don't want to dislodge it from the stamp and then lose it. That's just a great tip for you. Now that those have all been stamped, I just fussy cut them. Now if you hate to fussy cut, don't worry, I've got some tips for you. I love my paper snips by Stampin' Up. They're nice and sharp and they're small. But let's talk about these leaves because I know you're thinking, how the heck is this going to work? So let me give you an idea. When you cut, leave some white cardstock around the outside edges. I'm going to admit the stem and come up around here. And then you see how I'm kind of wiggling the paper and not wiggling my scissors. That kind of makes it easier for me. We're going to come up inside of here, and you can leave again some white, and I'm just going to pivot this. We're going to tuck some of that center leaf behind the blooms, so it's really not going to matter. Now I did cut out the flowers as well, nice and easy, and I did do all of that ahead of time. Let me show you. So all my flowers and leaves have been cut out, but now what we're going to do is we're going to use those to decorate. The best part about crafting is the layout, right? So we're going to fold this bottom flap down because we don't want that to be visible when we're going to be finished with the floating frame. So I'm just going to press that down, and to help hold it in place, I'm going to place one of my clear blocks here, and that keeps that little boing effect away from what I'm doing. I'm going to take one of those large poinsettias, and I'm going to determine where I want it. And then I'm going to take one of the smaller ones, there's that take your pick tool, and I'm going to kind of get an idea on positioning. So this is probably going to go somewhere behind here. Very important, you do not want to adhere it to the floating greeting. That's going to be important. So we're going to look and we're going to determine where the adhesive is going to go. So I'm going to see right here down in these two bottom corners is where it's going to work best. So I'm going to come over here to my glue dots once again. I'm going to peel those back, and I'm going to place one here and another one down here. So now that we have our glue dots on the back, those are going to make sure to fall here. I can overlap the greeting a little bit, but I don't want it to stick. You don't want to come past the bottom of this fold. So we're just going to tack that in place. Now we've got the other point set up. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of hold it here first to get an idea. And it looks like it's going to be these two small petals where my index finger is. We're going to add some glue dots to the back side, and we're going to attach those to here. Glue dots are really easy for those tiny areas, and they're very, very strong. So again, my glue dots are here. We're going to attach it to the frame of the card. I want to make sure I'm not entirely covering up the greeting because remember, this is going to float. Before I go any further, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to position where my leaves are going to go to give this a little bit of character. So these are the leaves that I had cut out. I'm not going to actually tuck one down inside of here. Do you see where it was joined by the stem? Once this is added, it's really not going to be visible. And then this is where, again, your glue dots are going to be your best friend. My best tip for you is when you have a shallow area here, don't pick it off with your fingers and risk ripping that. Use your take your pick tool to your advantage. So I'm going to place one there, and I'm going to place another one here. And now that I've got them, I can go ahead and I can use my fingers or my take your pick tool to kind of put these where I want them. Now I'm going to fill that little spot right there, and then I'm going to tack those in place. Now we're going to do the exact same thing now with another set of leaves. Again, you're going to press the glue dot right on top of your image and lift, and then we're going to do the exact same thing here and lift. And now you can get an idea of where this is going to be. If you want to put another set of leaves up here, again, they've got to stay within the circumference of the card. This one is going to be different because no two cards are alike, are they? And then I'm going to attach this one down here. Again, very careful to hide that area. Sometimes you might need to do card surgery, which means do we want these two connected? And I'm going to say yes. So let me show you another great way to use your glue dots. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use my take your pick tool, and I'm just going to fold this up just a little bit. The shape does not matter. Where these two are connecting right here, I'm adding my glue dot and I'm pressing. That's what I call card surgery. The other area I might want one is here. Sometimes I find by putting the glue dot on the back of the petal before I put it in an area where it could be open, that I aim wrong. So this gives me better placement. So I'm just going to go ahead and tuck that behind here. and just press that in place. Now all the pieces are connected. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move to the base of the card. You'll recall we had this piece. This is the center crease line. Again, I'm going to look at the outside edges and make sure it's even, and then go over it with my bone folder. This bottom piece is going to come and make a mountain fold. So it's going to come to a peak, and then I want you to check the edges as well and crease over that as well. Now these are separate sections for a reason, because the entire card is going to pop up to make the frame. So we're going to decorate them independently. And most of this I have ready ahead of time for you. So I've got a piece of designer series paper that I'm going to add here, but I decided to border it with a little bit of real red. Now I have got to show you this designer series paper, and this is the one that coordinates with the stamps that I just showed you, Modern Garden. Now this is called Garden Walk, and the papers are absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. So you're going to see here by the different patterns, all the variation of colors and the whimsical flowers that are included. But the best part about Stampin' Up! Designer Series papers are that they are double-sided, and these sides indicate that you can use them all year round for all types of different themes, and great for masculine cards as well. Let's go ahead and adhere the Designer Series paper to that real red cardstock. Again, my Stampin' Seal Plus is very, very strong. It does come out in tabs, so anything I got a little zealous with, I can just roll back on top of itself. We are going to layer it on top of the real red. My fingers are underneath because I do not want to let go of it until I am confident that my borders look as even as possible. And then we're going to add some adhesive here to the back side as well. This now is going to go on the upper portion of this card, so above the score line. Just make sure you've got it going in the right direction. And I'm looking to keep that same equal border all the way around. Once you're happy with it, then you can go ahead and let go and just press that in place. Here at the bottom, I could not resist this beautiful paper. So let's go ahead and let's add some adhesive now to the back side of this. The Stampin' Seal Plus is real strong, like I said, so you don't want to press really hard when you dispense it. This is going to fit within the area here, and again, I'm looking for a margin, and we're going to tack that in place. The focal point is going to be able to give you the presentation of the inside of your card. So it's the part that I love to decorate the most. And I went ahead and I die cut myself another label, which is the Countryside Corners. I did stamp the greeting on it just to speed things up a little bit, but I do want to show you that I took this specific greeting from another stamp set. This is called Brightest Glow, and I've had it now, this is the second year, because when can you not use a culmination of holiday greetings, right? And I love these with all the different fonts. So that's what I've used here. Now I'm going to give you a great tip about arranging. Let's go ahead and let's take the rest of those flowers that I've already cut, and let's create a little bit of a collage. Just place them where I want them. So let's go ahead and let's put a couple here and a couple here. And then I've got another smaller poinsettia that will probably go here on the top. Then I'm kind of looking going, okay, well, where do I want my leaves? So this is the fun part. It's kind of like paper dolls, right? Where you're dressing them and you're arranging them where they're going to go. So let's go ahead and let's put one here. And then let's take another one and let's bring that one down here. I like to do this first because then I have an idea of where all the images are going to go. But if you're like me, you're probably thinking, well, yep, they're not going to stay that way. Well, this is where I've got a great tip for you. Here's one more leaf. Let's go ahead and let's use it. And let's use it to our advantage up here near the top. Now I'm working all on top of that label. Now, once you've got them where you want them, this is where we usually come into trouble, right? Because we're like, how are we going to get it just like this again? My secret is this. I just pulled it off my stamp case. This is press and seal right from the kitchen. One side is sticky, the other side is not. With the sticky side down, and you're going to want to work quickly because it's going to want to statically stick to this, you're going to put this right over your image and you're going to press. It's going to hold the pieces together. So I'm very carefully going to lift it. And now here on the back side, I can go ahead and add my dimensionals. Now the dimensionals are going to serve double duty. Not only are they going to hold it to the label, but they're going to hold their placement to one another on the back side of the image. Now I love when you have a household item that does all kinds of crafting fun for you as well. And this is definitely one of those things. So you want to make sure that you're connecting all those smaller pieces. If necessary, you can come in with your mini dimensionals, which I love because they're pre-cut and I don't have to mess up my scissors with the bigger ones. And then we're going to add these in those little tiny sparse areas. Again, I want to make sure that everything is going to be one piece so that when I remove the press and seal, this is going to be able to be used. Once these are in place, give them a good push. Now what we're going to do is we are going to carefully remove the press and seal. Now, if I did this right, everything is going to be stuck together, and it is. Now that we've got all of our dimensionals in place, we're going to hold that paper down to secure it, and we're going to release the dimensionals. But do you see here how there's a loose spot here? So we're going to take another dimensional. This is a great time to fix that, and we're going to stick that right inside of there. I can also do a little card surgery from the front, which we might still do anyways, but always use that as a last resort if you can do all the adhesive from the back side. Now here's the fun part. If you're like me, you never remember exactly how it went. So this gives you a lot of opportunities to manipulate the image. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to press that in place. So we've got all of our pieces here. Now we're going to flip this over. Don't worry that you have some dimensionals showing. We're going to add our adhesive now to the back side. And this now is going to get centered here on the upper portion of the designer paper, here on the front of the card. Always make sure that your images fall within the perimeter of your card. Now, while as much as I loved it the way it was, I could not help by adding some bling. But here's my confession. All my brush gold ones were gone. We're going to experiment with this brassy color here off to the side. I'm going to use smaller ones. They have glue dots already on the back. So I'm going to place one here, and I'm going to place another one here to draw your eye up. And then I'm going to use one more, and I'm going to place that up here in the corner. I like using odd numbers because they're very, very pleasing to the eye. So this is what we've got so far, but now it's time to add the pop-up. We have our card base and we have our pop-up mechanism. Now these are going to go together. So we're going to open this up, and then this piece is going to come down. These two pieces are going to come together, which means adhesive now is going to have to go here. So we're going to use that silicone craft sheet. Adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to this. This is why I love to use it on my work surface to protect it. And I want to get close to that crease, but not right on top of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put these two pieces together. So where the designer series paper is going to connect to this, you want to come up to the score line and not surpass it. And I'm looking at the top and the bottom to try to keep these as closely matched as possible, and we're going to press. Now that we've got one long piece, this piece now is going to create the frame. All you're going to do is you're going to place adhesive here at the bottom, the exact same thing that we've done before. If this is your first time visiting my channel and you are enjoying what you see, I would love it if you click that thumbs up button here on YouTube. It's a like and it helps me tons. We're going to open this up. We are going to fold this down. So this now is at the center crease. All you have to do is close the card base. So you're looking here and here to make sure your card is aligned, and you are going to close. So I'm just looking at my edges and I'm going to press. When the card is all done, you should be able to open this and you have your pop-up. And I love this because you've got that framed in the back. But you know what I realized? I forgot my designer series paper, but this is a great option. You really don't see it from the front, but you do when it's on display. So this piece was supposed to go inside of here. So let's do this. Let's see how brave I am, because you know what? I don't always create things perfectly, and I'm sure you're the same way, right? So little dashes of my Stampin' Seal Plus are going to make it easier for me. Making sure I've got it in the right direction. I'm just going to hold my fingers underneath it. I'm laying it flat, and I'm looking from the side. Boy, you got to love when we're in the live chat with you and we get to go through all these little boo-boos together, right? And then we're going to press it in place. I think I did it. Look at that. Goes to show you we can fix most of those boo-boos. Here is where your greeting is going to go for the inside of your card. And I did do that ahead of time. These words came from the Brightest Glow as well. Another reason why I absolutely love this. So we're going to flip that upside down. We're going to add our adhesive to the back side, and then we're going to attach that here at the bottom. I have a free weekly e-newsletter, and I would love for you to sign up. Go over to my website at lisastampstudio.com and scroll to the bottom. All right, there we go. This is how it folds down. This is how it looks when it gets mailed. Absolutely beautiful, and it's freestanding, but wait until you see these other samples. This next one uses the Marius Trees bundles, which is the stamp set and the coordinating dies. Now, I will tell you, this one is really special in the simple fact that these dies can do double duty. One large tree, and there's dies in various sizes to get different size trees. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. Here is my sample. Here is the front of the card. Look at those little dazzling, beautiful gems. All I did was rip some cardstock. I used the light balmy blue Stampin' Blends alcohol-based marker, went over it with the color lifter to mute the color a little bit, added some Wink of Stella, and then layered the cardstock. So we've got a very simple front here, and then we've got our pop-up here with our tree and our greeting, and there's that designer series paperback for the display. Do you see how this one floats? I've got 2 layers here to the front between that acetate strip, and again, more Wink of Stella, which I don't think will ever come up over on camera. So again, another beautiful display. My last one uses a very unique bundle called Berry Cute. So it's the stamp set and the Berry Cute punch. Now, I love this because it also has coordinating designer series paper, which is called Berry Christmas, and almost all this card is from the designer series paper. I fussy cut this image using my scissors from the designer series paper, added some die cut stars and rhinestones. I heat embossed my greeting here at the bottom panel, and then here for the inside, very, very simple floating image on this one. This one is even more predominant because the deckled circles dies left a little bit extra room here between here and the back portion of the card. They're all stunning, all beautiful, and all quite different. And as always, I want to know your favorite. Hop down right now in the comments below and let me know which one you favor. Your feedback is very important to me. All right, I cannot wait to share with you all about this, the online stamping retreat. We did session 1 earlier this year, and we are back on October 28th for a full day of live presentations and tutorials. Here's a quick glimpse of everything that's going to be included. And guess what? There are 48 prize patrols this year. Gina and I partner with the #1 demonstrator in Australia, Kylie Bertucci, and her amazingly creative husband, Bruno. Head over to their YouTube channel and check them out and subscribe while you're there. You're going to love their personal and amazing content. We can't wait to have you join us. It's going to be $45 for the entire day, and you'll be able to register at onlinestampingretreat.com. And then I want to make sure you know all about Stamp Studio memberships. Many of you have enjoyed this, and we are so glad that you have. I designed these projects specifically for this. These projects are going to come to your inbox every single Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. There are 2 levels, level 1 and level 2. None of the photographs and the tutorials are copyrighted, so if you're Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I've got all the ideas ready for you to go. If you love to produce cards either en masse or are looking for constant new ideas, one of these levels is made specifically for you. All the information is over on my website. And then finally, make sure you mark your calendar. I will be back with you next Monday, which is October 9th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time with another amazing project for you. Gina, thanks for helping to moderate with me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.